Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. I'm George Conley with Scratch Golf Tips. Today we're going to be talking about wedges, more specifically alignment with the wedges, and a very common issue that I see plaguing a lot of golfers' game from that 90 to 120 yard out range. Now, I get all kinds of messages every week about pain points in golfers' games. So the things that I see very frequently, I like to address in YouTube videos just so that everybody can understand it. Because if it's affecting a couple people who are messaging me, it's clearly affecting many people who aren't messaging the Scratch Golf Tips account. So something that I've seen very commonly asked is, I'm often pulling my wedges or I'm always missing my wedges to the left for a right-handed golfer, or for a left-handed golfer, I'm kind of leaving them out to the right side of the green. So that miss is considered a pull, but actually when talking to these people and looking at the golf swing, looking at what's going on, I actually think it's much more an issue of alignment. Let me explain this. Most golfers are intrinsically faders of the golf ball. Just to remind, a fader is someone who hits the ball from left to right in the air if you are a right-handed golfer. If you're a left-handed golfer, your ball moving right to left in the air is one who fades the golf ball. So when you're hitting a driver, that ball, no matter what, is going to fade more than a 7-iron, unless you hit it differently mechanically. If you're hitting the same swing, your ball's going to fade much more with the driver. It's still going to have a decent amount of fade with a 7-iron. If you have a pitching wedge, it's still going to fade a little bit, but we don't want to be compensating for that much fade if we have a 58 or a 60-degree wedge in our hands. And I think this is where the issue really comes in, is that so many golfers are used to standing over a 7-iron and having a pretty open upper body, opening up the feet, and seeing that ball fade in for 5 to 6 yards. But when you're standing over a 90-yard shot with a 58-degree wedge, they're keeping that same alignment. They're keeping the open upper body. They're keeping that same body and club alignment. The ball just isn't fading as much because it won't. That's not what lofted clubs do. It's very hard to put a notable fade or a notable draw unless you're really exaggerating your motion, which no one in these cases are. The same goes with golfers who have a little bit of a slice with the driver and they compensate for it by letting that ball go all the way in. Those people actually much more often miss greens and miss pins left with their irons and their approach shots in, just because they're overcompensating, because they know how it feels to stand over a driver and hit the fairway with a big old banana slice, but you can't really hit that with a 7-iron, or at least if you can, you don't want to be hitting that because it's very difficult to control. So when you're standing over one of those wedge shots, and it's very different when I say wedge shots, I could be talking about a pitching wedge from 130 yards or a lob wedge from 85 yards. I'm talking about that 80 to 115, 120 yard range where I know that even if I try, I can't really fade or draw the ball that much. Can I get a little bit of fade or draw? Yes, you absolutely can. It's very difficult to hit a ball perfectly straight, but it's important to consider as you club down, even if it's a full swing with a 60 degree, that ball just won't fade as much as a 7-iron. So simply being very conscious of that, standing behind your ball, which in every pre-shot routine, I recommend that you spend just a couple seconds looking behind the ball and choosing an intermediate target. If I have a 60 degree in hand, at that time where I'm standing behind the ball, I'm going to be looking up at the pin. I'm going to be looking just left of it. I'm talking maybe a yard or two instead of 5 or 6. I'm going to pick that spot and I'm going to very consciously align my club, align my upper body, and align my feet to that intermediate target that I already created behind the ball. And behind the ball, if you have that understanding, then once you're aligning the rest of your body to that target, you'll intrinsically be ready for that limited fade. So again, this is one of those things it's pretty easy in theory to work on, because I'm not asking you to change anything in your golf swing. It's just your alignment. It's being more conscious of the ball flight you have. I think this is a great thing to work on the driving range too, because on a driving range, you can hit a 60 degree, then go right to a 7, then go to some kind of hybrid, then go to your driver, and you can see the adjustments in how much they fade. And once you have a better conceptual idea of how those clubs fade or how those clubs draw, you can continue to dial in what your intermediate target is depending on the fade of those clubs. Let me know if this is an issue that you've had, and if it's something that you're working towards. I'd love to hear how you're doing so and how effective it has been. And if you have any other comments on things that I've mentioned throughout this video, please leave them in the comment section down below. As always, thank you all very much for watching. Play well and take care.